So thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to chat with Contagion. I love what you guys do. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jason Pogue. I'm a clinical professor at the University of Michigan College of Pharmacy, and I also serve as an infectious diseases clinical pharmacist over at Michigan Medicine at the hospital.
Great. So we'll just start with the elephant in the room, which is the Surgersphere Lancet and NEJM data. Where do we even start?
Yeah, where do we start? It's a very unfortunate situation. Those data were, if you looked at those trials, and particularly we'll focus on the hydroxychloroquine one because that's really where our focus is today. If you looked at those data and you looked at them closely, there were some questions, and I think that the number of patients that they had was very high. If you looked at some of the conclusions, it was questionable of whether or not they were even plausible. I personally there was no real logical way that a drug therapy would be associated with a 40% increase in mortality. They just really didn't pass the sniff test in a lot of ways. And I think it was really interesting how that story played out, where really I think that the Twitter sleuths really kind of got into it. You saw a lot of academicians who were trying to perform clinical trials, which were being halted because of the results of that study, really start to dig into it. And man, it was a really unfortunate way that this has played out because, again, we don't know that data is even real at this point. And I mean, a lot of people believe it's not, right? Because they won't allow independent audits. I think the retractions were the right things to do. But man, a lot of that damage has been done. It's going to be hard to as we've talked about before, right? This is kind of a polarizing topic to begin with, and when you add in that type of scenario, it can be really damaging to just the belief in the data that we're seeing. So it's a really unfortunate situation. I'm glad that I think they did the right thing by retracting the data set, but it's just really unfortunate that we now have that cloud hanging over us.
Yeah, and I mean, it's impressive that the scientific community was able to turn it, but it does raise questions about, what's the standards here when it comes to pandemic interpretation of research, and some of that's understandable, but like you said, it's such a polarizing issue. And so to have this issue blow up, not around, say, remdesivir, but around something that's become its own little piece of the culture wars in a way I haven't ever seen with a medication before. I mean,
yeah, I agree. And I think what it highlights is, and again, this probably goes beyond the pandemic. It's just hyper aware because of what's going on, because everything is playing out in real time. We want therapeutic options. Again, all of us want to be able to provide care to our patients to improve their outcomes. But I think it really, really, again, whether it's preprint or what we're learning is even peer-reviewed literature, I think it really shows how it's incumbent on the clinician to actually look at those data, think through them, kind of go through that process, and really interpret and apply those to patient care. Again, the preprints, you expect some of that to play out, right? So you expect that's the first, it hadn't gone through peer review, no one had commented on that data set yet. Anyone can post those types of things on the website, so you expect some of that. But I think what you're seeing is that as there's this rush to publish, even some of the peer review needs to be looked at and under a really critical lens. And I think that's our responsibility to do that. And it's been a really, I think, important lesson along those lines.
Do you think that we'll see a lot more caution from Lancet and New England Journal of Medicine publishing hydroxychloroquine data moving forward?
I think there's going to have to be, right? They're under the microscope. Again, this is a really black eye type situation for them. Again, these are prestigious medical journals, and I think that, again, everyone makes mistakes, but I think that there will be certainly hesitancy to push things through so quickly moving forward. Again, I think that's a good thing. And then I'd also say is that, as we get further out into the pandemic, the rush might not be the same degree, right? Because these are in some of these situations where the first data sets looking at different things. there is a desire to inform practice, and again, that's an understandable thing. But I think that there will certainly be an added layer on their end, and there should